Things I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts, yeah. During the day, well, I design machines of war that scream through the sky. 'Cause I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts. But they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out. And I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back out. I have my doubts, so I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So no wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong, but I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong, but I hope that I'm wrong. The things I think while I lie awake and contemplate at night are wearing me out.
Revelation 3. And unto the angel of the church in Sardis write, These things saith he that hath the 7 spirits of God, and the 7 stars. I know thy works, that thou hast a name that thou livest, and art dead. Be watchful, and strengthen the things which remain, that are ready to die. For I have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. Thou hast a few names even in Sardis which have not defiled their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, These things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth, and no man shutteth, and no man openeth. I know thy works, behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. And I will write upon him my new name. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth, because thou sayest, I am rich, and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched, and miserable, and poor, and blind, and naked. I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eyesalve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous therefore, and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice, and open the door, I will come into him, and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame, and am set down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches.
Good evening. It's November 5th, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and welcome to the Watchman News. You know, I pray quite a bit that our Father calls his children more and more. I fear that he has already made that call and that he's not going to call again. I fear that because I believe a lot of people have ignored that call. Wow. I've got a lot of news for you tonight. I've got some interesting stuff for you tonight. I will be talking about the election results and where I feel that leaves us. And I will also be discussing a notice that my lovely Jennifer got in the mail. And it was rather startling to both myself and her mother. And wow, and it does have to do with the elections. And I'm really kind of speechless about it because, well, when you vote in this country, it's supposed to be anonymous. If you vote in this country, it's supposed to be anonymous. However, obviously it is not. And boy, were they on sending her a letter. It was almost like a threat. I mean, it was intimidating, to say the least, when she read it to me. I have a picture of it, but it's a little fuzzy. But I will show that picture later, and then I will this weekend. I will be getting a copy of it, and on Monday's show, I will have it on there again to show that copy, and I will also upload it this weekend. The copy of the picture, or the copy of the information. It's just on a piece of paper. I will have it also uploaded to the website, or to the Facebook page. And maybe this week I will get started on the Watchman News website. We'll see how that goes. Been a little busy. I worked on a new banner some today. I have more to work on it. There it is so far. I might change things up a little bit with it. I don't know. But there's going to be other things added to it. I know it looks a little plain now. All I can say is I love the 3D tools within Photoshop CS6. It's a fun toy to play with. I love software. I'm a software junkie, I admit it. So anyway, let's go ahead and get on with Suspicious Observers. I've got plenty of news for you tonight. Some crazy news. When don't I have crazy news? That's the question. I typically have crazy news. So let's go ahead and get on with Suspicious Observers so we can move on with craziness. Without further ado, Ben Davison.
Good morning, folks. It's been an interesting couple of days with the new sunspot incoming on north. We saw 3 M-class solar flares and 3 CMEs, but due to the position of the eruptions, they are not Earth-directed. The departing limb has gotten in the mix as well, firing some CMEs of its own off in the direction of Mercury and Jupiter. In addition to the initial 3 flares, we've taken an M7 just this morning, the largest of the bunch, and still not yet Earth-facing. The sunspots that are Earth-facing continue to be quiet. One has some size but magnetic spread, while the other is complexing but likely too tiny to make fireworks, leaving only the incoming active region, which appears to be anything but simple, with negative sprinkles back through a positive core of the active region. Eyes open for more there. In 211 angstroms, we note the dark patches coming in north and south. This is extremely rare because both are of negative polarity. In a true nod to the unending solar pole reversal, we've got nary a positive influence in sight, and some solid force turns this way. Last 24 hours of solar wind show speed and plasma temperature rising with density in flux. We've seen some magnetic instability in the Earth system, but more so we've seen energy introduced in total and a domination of the protons as the electron flux takes a big hit. Top quake of the day was in New Zealand, but it rang much of the West Pacific, even up to Japan. We saw a moderate tremor strike in the Arctic Circle north of Iceland, and an extremely unusual uptick near the Nevada-Oregon border. These are listed as Oregon, but clearly falling on the Nevada side of the state line, 24 small quakes in one day. Eyes open there. Folks, if you do your research, you already know that climate extremes have taken hold, with both hot and cold swings prevalent across the globe. But the one area that has really only seen warming is the North American West Coast. We're now discovering that this is an entirely natural process, not at all driven by human-induced climate change. Article linked for you below. Jumping to the slow-moving disaster. Residents will be happy to know that the lava has stalled. Eyes have been on Hawaii for weeks now. We will continue to watch for updates on the progress. We've got a great link at weather.com about fall breaks or hole punch clouds. The article goes about how you'd expect it to go from a mainstream outlet, but the pics are nice and it leads us into the latest request for public help. NASA wants your cloud photos. I've got the story and the sites linked for you below. Essentially, you'll be doing ground confirmation of satellite imagery. This is right up the alley of many of you folks. Check it out. Please note a system developing in the Bay of Bengal there. Meanwhile, Nuri is powerful and charging north, still looking like a direct landfall to Japan will be avoided. Vance is weakening as it approaches Mexico, but the moisture shearing off into the central U.S. convergence continues, dumping up into the states there. It's now rained on the mobile observatory for 24 straight hours here in Texas. It will continue up the line tonight to complement the Pacific moisture flow across the northern states and southern Canada. In Europe, note that the large-scale flows have dipped way down to curl back up around Italy. Also in the mix is a low in the channel sitting in the center of the larger flow. The clouds are following that larger belt down, around, and back up. Tonight's watch zones in purple should make a lot of sense. Down under, you see the convergence drawn from the southeast corner of Australia back north and slightly to the west. Little convergence at New Zealand as well. The storm warnings stick to the colliding air masses for the most part there. Clouds are popping. Mobile observatories in Lavon, Texas today, just outside of Dallas. We'll be in San Antonio and Houston this weekend. Come out and see us, chat, hang out. All the details are found at observatoryproject.com, which is also linked right below this video. Got shots of our start at close with 6:20 a.m. Eastern Time, 5:20 a.m. Central. That's the news. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.
And thanks to Ben Davison for his wonderful report. Wow. Yeah, it's always a good idea. Remember that sunspot is coming around on the backside of the sun. It's going to take a few days to get here, but it is something to keep in our minds. And there's also a string of sunspots that hasn't quite made it around the limb quite yet. So keep a good eye on it. As always, subscribe to his channel. Check out his playlist. He has a wealth of information to share. So let's get on with the news. This first bit of news, I really have a hard time. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Mom tells 911, I just threw my son over the Yaquina Bay Bridge. A Lincoln County woman was expected to appear in court Tuesday on accusations she murdered her son by throwing him off the Yaquina Bay Bridge in Newport on Monday night. This is in Oregon. Authorities say 34-year-old Jillian McCabe called 911 at 6:25 p.m. to report what she did. She later told police that she heard voices in her head telling her to throw the boy off the bridge. When asked the nature of her emergency, she told the 911 dispatcher, I just threw my son over the Yaquina Bay Bridge, according to a probable cause affidavit obtained by KGW Tuesday morning. She told the dispatcher her son London was gone in the water and described him and his clothing in detail, then described herself as an officer approached her. She told several officers on the scene that she had thrown the boy into the water. One officer actually saw McCabe carrying him on the bridge, which he found odd considering the size of the boy. The drop from the bridge deck to the water below is 133 feet. The Coast Guard, Newport Police and Fire, and the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office searched for a victim in the water around the bridge. About 10:30 p.m., the boy's body was located near the Embarcadero Resort, I'm sure I said that wrong, to the east of the bridge. He was identified by a photo provided by his father, Matt McCabe. Jillian McCabe, who lives in Seal Rock area, I'm sure that's Seal, was accused of aggravated murder, first-degree manslaughter, and second-degree manslaughter. Her bail was set at $1 million bail, and her first hearing is scheduled for November 12th. Family members told KGW that Jillian struggled with mental health issues at times, and when she got overwhelmed, she did try to get help. They said she applied for assistance from public and private providers, but was not able to get any. Go Obamacare, huh? Jillian had recently created an online donation site for her son and husband. She said London was diagnosed with autism and her husband, Matt McCabe, was struggling with multiple sclerosis. She lived in Hood River at the time, as first reported earlier by NBC News. I love my husband, and he has taken care of myself and my son for years and years, and is now time for me to take the helm, she says. I'm scared that I am reaching out. I hope I am not coming across as trashy or overreactionary. I must explore every avenue to take care of my family right now. The appeal for money ended 8 months ago after raising $6,831 toward a goal of $50,000. In this YouTube video below, published October 2013, with her husband by her side, McCabe sends out an appreciation to all who had helped her cope with a child with autism and a husband with MS. I can't take this on alone, she says, adding that it kept her from pulling a Thelma and Louise. I said it. London McCabe attended kindergarten at Crestview Heights Elementary in Walport, according to the school district officials. His bright blue eyes and grin stood out under one of his favorite hats in a recent school photo shared with KGW. After the boy's body was found, counselors were provided for law enforcement officers and rescue crews involved in the incident. It's one of these things you don't want to happen in your community, said Newport Police Chief Mark Miranda. I feel really sorry for the family. Losing a kid isn't easy. In May 2009, a woman tossed her 2 young children off a bridge in Portland, killing her 4-year-old son. A daughter, then 7 years old, survived. Amanda Slott Smith was sentenced in 2010 to at least 35 years in prison. The Yaquina Bay Bridge, one of the most famous on the Oregon coast, opened in 1936. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Gets a little rough reading some of that. Look, folks. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. What's going on around us? Stuff like this did not used to happen. And I see it all the time. I don't even report on it all the times I see it. I mean, it seems like sometimes when I do the news, I just keep going over and over. It almost seems like the same stories sometimes, especially when it comes to police brutality and stuff like that. And it's not. I'm doing different stories each and every time. But these crazy events are more frequent, and they're even crazier as time goes on. And when are we going to wake up when it comes to the mental health system? It's a shame. It's a shame. You know, it seems like the parents that shouldn't have their children get to keep their children, and in some cases get to kill their children. But parents that are very good parents lose theirs. And there's reasoning behind it. They really do not want good parenting. They want a society that is dependent on them. And the best way to get that, the best way to achieve that, is to break the family structure. Wow. It's crazy. It's crazy. So we'll move on across the pond. Tense standoff between 1 million mass march protesters and police in London. folks. We're going to have some craziness coming here, I assure you. Protesters and police engaged in a tense and prolonged standoff outside London's Buckingham Palace as metal barriers cordoned off the area were removed and protesters incited police to fight. At least 10 people were arrested amid sporadic clashes between the Million Mask March protesters and police in London. Authorities said that the people were apprehended for assaulting police officers, setting off fireworks, public order offense, obstruction, and at least one case of attempted grievous bodily harm. Grievous. And there's a bunch of different videos and different stuff on here. Move back now, police yelled. Piggy, 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 fight, 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 protesters shouted at police. Jostling with metal barriers segregating police from protesters took place, with some being lifted off the floor and hurled at the law enforcement officials. Just wait, it's coming. As they were felled, some of the protesters sat down in front of the policemen, seeming to act as a replacement barrier of sorts for more violent demonstrators while still retaining masks. Some protesters sent fireworks over the crowd in direct contravention of a Met Police directive for people not to use pyrotechnics at the march. Protesters then moved towards Piccadilly Circus before turning onto Regent Street and kept marching through the central London streets. And again, the link's down in the About tab if you want to see these videos, these pictures a little better. A small group of protesters also descended on a local McDonald's on Oxford Road, chanting, "Meat is murder," at people inside. The group was held back by a heavy police presence. And still unknown how many demonstrators joined the march, in 2013 the event gathered crowds of more than 2,500, and the Facebook event suggests over 6,000 people are in attendance this year. The Million Mask March is sweeping the globe Wednesday as demonstrators protest against austerity, mass surveillance, and oppression in more than 400 cities around the world. The Million Mask March, called for by Anonymous, is famed for featuring demonstrators wearing Guy Fawkes masks adopted by the collective from the V for Vendetta novel and the movie. So it's coming. It's coming here. It's going to get worse there. It's going to get bad here. This is global. The people are getting tired of it. They are. And the proof was that in the elections yesterday. If there isn't any bigger proof as to how tired the people are getting, I don't know what to tell you. I really do not know what to tell you. Craziness, folks, craziness. I do have a quick little story on another study on electronic cigarettes, since we are associated with a e-cig business, my e-cig business. I figured I would share this story to help quell some of the lies around e-cigarettes. Quick little short story, we'll move on. Yet another study shows absence of e-cigarette toxins. A new report in the International Journal of Research in Public Health assessed e-cigarette vapor for the presence of toxins and mutagens. Researchers used various well-characterized assays, including one for genotoxicity and mutagenicity, adverse impacts on genes and mutations, known as the Ames test, invented by longtime ACSH friend Dr. Bruce Ames. The study authors, led by Dr. Mano Misra, whose 4 co-authors and himself all worked for the research labs of Lorillard Tobacco in Greensboro, North Carolina, also assayed cigarette smoke and smokeless tobacco, as well as nicotine replacement therapy patches for those some parameters, which also include quantifying inflammatory response and cytotoxicity, otherwise known as cell death. The results showed, as any objective observer of the harm reduction scenario would expect, non-detectable levels of toxins and mutagens, etc., in the e-cigarette effluent, as well as in the NRT absorbents and the smokeless tobacco products. These results held for e-cig liquids and vapors with or without flavors or nicotine, and were about 6,000-fold less potent than the studies on combustible cigarette smoke. ACSH's Dr. Gil Ross had this perspective. As more and more science on the lack of harm expected from e-cigs and their vapor come pouring in, it will, I hope, become harder and harder for those who mindlessly or corruptly oppose this life-saving technology to participate in their destructive course. Prior studies by Drs. Farsalinos on heart cells, Ganowitz and Burstein on chemicals in e-cig vapor in their minute quantities, as well as on the general safety of vaping, as e-cig use is called, will continue to accumulate and eventually overwhelm the naysayers, if the regulators and politicians will permit it. Some of the words in there, kind of big words, but I wanted to do that story because there's a lot of lies going around out there about the use of e-cigs, and I just wanted to clear some of that up. Wow, what the time. Let's go ahead and do this story, and then I will get on election stuff. This happened was written on October 29th. Mother calls police to help her son take his medicine. Cop shows up and shoots him. In Gretna, Florida, Juanita Donald called the police to come assist her and get her 24-year-old son to take his medication, as she had done in the past. On Tuesday morning around 9:30 a.m., she called the police to help her with her son, Caldrick Donald, and one officer showed up, Sergeant Charles Brown. Charles Brown ended up tasing Caldrick Donald repeatedly and then took him into the isolated bathroom in the family's house and shot him multiple times, killing him. Brown murdered Donald in the presence of his pregnant sister and mother, and no one can even say why. He was completely unarmed and somehow not completely sane. His mother said, "I heard my baby say, 'I want my mama,' after he shot him, and then I didn't hear anything else." His mother said she was expecting them to take him to the Appalachia Center like before, but instead a single officer came in and escalated the situation, murdering him in front of his family. Juanita continued to say it wasn't but one officer. Instead of calling for backup, he took things in his own hands and he goes in the house and he rushed him and shoot him. She continued to say didn't want to be bothered. And that he simply walked away from the officer. She says Sergeant Charles Brown just grabbed him and then tased him. Then when he grabbed him and tased him, he rushed my son off into the bathroom, and I heard 3 shots. I was like, "You shot my son." And he was like, "I had to." I said, "No, you didn't have to." Charles Brown is now on administrative leave or paid a vacation, and if this story doesn't blow up, then this officer surely will see no charges. The Gretna police chief had a bland statement to give. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family. Since the investigation began, we have asked the Gadsden County Sheriff's Department as well as Florida Department of Law Enforcement to assist us. Will this officer ever be charged for murder or anything? This is a breaking story. Only a few local news reports have been made about the incident so far, and they received little attention. So this article will serve to expose this crime and be the first step in holding this person accountable. I'm sorry I'm having issues reading today. I normally don't have that bad of issues. The link is down in the About tab. Please, for this family, I mean, you can share kittens, you can share dinners and everything else. Click on that link, share it on social media, get this story out there. This is ridiculous, and it's happening over and over and over. It's crazy. So please, if you want to do something good for the day, Get this story out there, share it, help people become aware of what's going on. And again, this stuff is happening almost every single day in this country, but people don't know about it because it's lucky to show up on local news, airs one time, and you never hear anything about it again. Share it. Anyway, so let me tell you about this that Jennifer got. Here is, and it's blurry. I know you can't read it. I can't even read it. I will be getting a photocopy of it, and on Monday I will put it on the show again. And this weekend I will actually put it on the Facebook page so you can see it. And what it is it was letting her know that she did not show up to vote. You heard that correctly. It was a letter she got today informing her that she did not show up to vote, and talking all about how you know, more or less she more or less kind of, I'm paraphrasing here, but more or less kind of cheated or robbed the democratic system and all that because she did not show up to vote. So, I mean, I will save to say more when I get a copy of it that we can, you know, that's actually readable, and I will discuss it more. But I wanted to point that out. I just find it amazing. I thought in this country that voting was an anonymous thing. And, you know, that was one of the big threats between having to have an ID to vote, is that it would no longer be anonymous. Well, obviously, even if you don't vote, it's not anonymous. So let's get some ID laws put in place, you know, so all these dead people and non-existent people don't vote. So I'm going to play Obama's little speech today, and yeah, wow, it's all a game, and I will discuss it a little bit after the speech. So let's go ahead and play the video, and then we'll discuss it.
The C-SPAN then. Vision provider. C-SPAN, created by cable.
Good afternoon, everybody. Have a seat. Today I had a chance to speak with John Boehner and congratulated Mitch McConnell on becoming the next Senate Majority Leader. And I told them both that I look forward to finishing up this Congress's business and then working together for the next 2 years to advance America's business. And I very much appreciated Leader McConnell's words last night about the prospect of working together to deliver for the American people. On Friday, I look forward to hosting the entire Republican and Democratic leadership at the White House to chart a new course forward. Obviously, Republicans had a good night, and they deserve credit for running good campaigns. Beyond that, I'll leave it to all of you and the professional pundits to pick through yesterday's results. What stands out to me, though, is that the American people sent a message, one that they've sent for several elections now. They expect people they elect to work as hard as they do. They expect us to focus on their ambitions and not ours. They want us to get the job done. All of us in both parties have a responsibility to address that sentiment. Still, as president, I have a unique responsibility to try and make this town work. So to everyone who voted, I want you to know that I hear you. To the 2/3 of voters who chose not to participate in the process yesterday, I hear you too. All of us have to give more Americans a reason to feel like the ground is stable beneath their feet, that the future is secure, that there's a path for young people to succeed, and that folks here in Washington are concerned about them. So I plan on spending every moment of the next 2+ years doing my job the best I can to keep this country safe and to make sure that more Americans share in its prosperity. Now, this country's made real progress since the crisis 6 years ago. The fact is, more Americans are working. Unemployment has come down. More Americans have health insurance. Manufacturing has grown. Our deficits have shrunk. Our dependence on foreign oil is down, as are gas prices. Our graduation rates are up. Our businesses aren't just creating jobs at the fastest pace since the 1990s. Our economy is outpacing most of the world. But we've just got to keep at it until every American feels the gains of a growing economy where it matters most, and that's in their own lives. Obviously, much of that will take action from Congress. And I'm eager to work with the new Congress to make the next 2 years as productive as possible. I'm committed to making sure that I measure ideas not by whether they are from Democrats or Republicans, but whether they work for the American people. And that's not to say that we won't disagree over some issues that we're passionate about. We will. Congress will pass some bills I cannot sign. I'm pretty sure I'll take some actions that some in Congress will not like. That's natural. That's how our democracy works. But we can surely find ways to work together on issues where there's broad agreement among the American people. So I look forward to Republicans putting forward their governing agenda. I will offer my ideas on areas where I think we can move together to respond to people's economic needs. So just take one example. We all agree on the need to create more jobs that pay well. Traditionally, both parties have been for creating jobs rebuilding our infrastructure, our roads, bridges, ports, waterways. I think we can hone in on a way to pay for it through tax reform that closes loopholes and makes it more attractive for companies to create jobs here in the United States. We can also work together to grow our exports and open new markets for our manufacturers to sell more American-made goods to the rest of the world. And that's something I'll be focused on when I travel to Asia next week. We all share the same aspirations for our young people. And I was encouraged that this year Republicans agreed to investments that expanded early childhood education. I think we've got a chance to do more on that front. We've got some common ideas to help more young people afford college and graduate without crippling debt so that they have the freedom to fill the good jobs of tomorrow and buy their first homes and start a family. And in the 5 states where a minimum wage increase was on the ballot last night, voters went 5 for 5 to increase it. And that'll give about 325,000 Americans a raise in states where Republican candidates prevailed. So that should give us new reason to get it done for everybody with a national increase in the minimum wage. So those are some areas where I think we've got some real opportunities to cooperate, and I am very eager to hear Republican ideas for what they think we can do together over the next couple of years. Of course, there's still business on the docket that needs attention this year. And here are 3 places where I think we can work together over the next several weeks before this Congress wraps up for the holidays. First, I'm submitting a request to Congress for funding to ensure that our doctors, scientists, and troops have the resources that they need to combat the spread of Ebola in Africa and to increase our preparedness for any future cases here at home. Second, I'm going to begin engaging Congress over a new authorization to use military force against ISIL. The world needs to know we are united behind this effort, and the men and women of our military deserve our clear and unified support. Third, back in September, Congress passed short-term legislation to keep the government open and operating into December. That gives Congress 5 weeks to pass a budget for the rest of the fiscal year. And I hope that they'll do it in the same bipartisan, drama-free way that they did earlier this year. When our companies are steadily creating jobs, which they are, we don't want to inject any new uncertainty into the world economy and to the American economy. The point is, it's time for us to take care of business. There are things this country has to do that can't wait another 2 years or another 4 years. There are plans this country has to put in place for our future. And the truth is, I'm optimistic about our future. I have good reason to be. I meet Americans all across the country who are determined and big-hearted and ask what they can do and never give up and overcome obstacles. And they inspire me every single day. So the fact is, I still believe in what I said when I was first elected 6 years ago last night. For all the maps plastered across our TV screens today, and for all the cynics who say otherwise, I continue to believe we are simply more than just a collection of red and blue states. We are the United States. And whether it's immigration or climate change or making sure our kids are going to the best possible schools, to making sure that our communities are creating jobs, whether it's stopping the spread of terror and disease, to opening up doors of opportunity to everybody who's willing to work hard and take responsibility. The United States has big things to do. We can and we will make progress if we do it together. And I look forward to the work ahead. So with that, let me take some questions.
So along with the rhetoric and lies, there was some valuable information to take from that. And I'm telling you, I was proud of the American people. If he said 2/3 of the people did not vote, you can bet that it was more than that. And I'm proud of each and one of you that did not vote. That is a clear message, and it needed to be sent. Stop listening to the same old threats and the same old bogus stuff that you hear from people saying, well, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain. Or that not voting is this, or not voting is that. No, not voting is saying, I've had enough. And I think there are both people that used to vote conservative, and I think there's enough people that used to vote liberal that have had it. They are fed up. They are starting to figure out the game. I'm telling you, I've said it before, and it's a fact. Look, when you vote, all you're doing is voting away your rights and your liberties and your freedom. That's a fact. Both sides want to take from people. And whether or not you have personal opinions about abortion or gay marriage or the Second Amendment or marijuana laws, you don't have the right to prevent other people from doing things that don't directly affect you. If your neighbor's in his house smoking a joint, that is none of your business. Not a damn bit. And I'm against taking the life of an unborn child. That is my personal opinion. But if a woman decides that that's what she wants to do, that is her right. I'm sorry. There is nothing that frustrates me or saddens me more than abortion. But that's my opinion. Opinions have no rights being law. That's a fact. And just because somebody else might be against guns or owning guns, their opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't. See, we've lost the fight to protect liberty in this country. And they have gotten the people in this country to stand behind them based on their personal opinions and their feelings and their emotional responses, their knee-jerk reactions. They have gotten people to stand behind taking other people's freedoms, other people's liberties, and telling everybody how they need to run their life. If you think things are going to get better, if you're a conservative-minded person and think now, since the conservatives are in control of the House and the Senate, and, so many things, conservative things pass this year, if you think things are going to get better, you're sadly mistaken. That ball's just swinging on the other side. That's all that's happening. They're still owned by the same people. The same agendas are in play. The same goals are in mind. And that's not your liberty. That's not your freedom. I guarantee you, conservatives took office. I guarantee you that you're still not going to be able to just run your home off of solar power. I guarantee you're not going to be able to start collecting rainwater. I guarantee you're not going to be able to start feeding the homeless people in those places where there's laws against it. If you think any of those laws are going to revert, you're nuts. You're nuts. Enough with the flag waving. The only statement that could have been said yesterday was not to show up at all. Period. And I know there's a certain amount of people that don't vote anyway. I'm one of those people. I voted one time in my life. I will never vote again unless this system falls. If this system falls and we put a new system in place based on the Constitution, based on our rights, based on our liberties, our personal liberties, then I'll vote. But right now, it's just a game. And they do this back and forth. They're still selected. They do this back and forth so that they can erode away at your liberties back and forth. It's a fact. Look it up. Look at all the laws and the directives and executive orders and everything that's been put in place for the last 50 years. I mean, it goes further than that. Go back 50 years and look. All they've done is eroded away from our liberties. That's all they will ever do. They are an out-of-control government. They totally forgot the values of the Constitution. They totally forgot that this is a country of we the people, for the people. And we're not going to be able to straighten this mess out until they're gone. Until all of them are gone. And it's rebooted. And it's a fresh start with people that do have liberty in mind. With people that don't want to control other people's lives dependent upon their personal beliefs. When our founders framed this country, they realized these things. They were brilliant men. They realized these things. And they tried to portray everything on a piece of paper. And most people don't even understand what those words are anymore. They don't even care. All they care about is how they feel or what they think or what they want. And that causes us all to lose. Not just some, all. Because it just swings back and forth. While more liberties, more rights are being just taken. While we are getting stepped on. It's crazy. It's crazy. Unemployment's not doing better. Job creation's not doing better. None of it's doing any better. It's all worse. And now they're wanting to put robots in positions and trying to blame it on the people that want to make enough money to survive. And I understand the other side of it. I understand why they can't pay $15 an hour for a minimum wage. I get that. I get both sides of it. I don't wave a flag. As long as you don't wave that flag, you can see these things. They don't want to, their buddies are the ones that own corporations overseas and are getting all these tax breaks and all that. And they don't want to step on their feet because that's how they get their massive amount of money. They obviously feel they don't make enough just by holding office themselves. They have to get all these kickbacks from all these corporations for doing all these favors. That is where the problem lies. Have to take the money out of politics. Because the issue is we are getting too many imported goods. And the more items we import, the less people here have work. That's a fact. We got to stop looking at this as a game. Anyway, that's what I've got for you tonight. May God bless you. May He walk with you. Always be one with your spirit. Love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.